All you need is faith and a real sure intention. Don't need no ticket, just thank the Lord. Our inner garden of divinity. One of the ways in which we do that is through prayer. prayer. A lot of y'all know that I'm a Food Network junkie. I watch it all the time. And there was a show that was called The 5-Ingredient Fix. Anybody see that? Anybody ever saw that show? And Claire Robinson, who was the host of that show, is actually from Memphis. And I got excited because a few months ago, my colleagues and I from here at Leadership Memphis, we went to one of the restaurants in Overton Square, and I was sitting there, and I was looking across the room, and guess who was sitting there? Claire Robinson. Oh, wow, she lives in New York, but she was back in town for a wedding. I didn't know her before then, but you best believe I went over and made myself known. And she was very glad that I remembered the show. I forgot to tell her, well, I actually used, your approach in teaching about prayer in my congregation. But she just was really surprised that, somebody remembered her and remembered the show, because it's actually been off the air for a little while. But she's still cooking and doing all the things that she does in New York, but she was back in town. But her show was the 5-Ingredient Fix. That basically, her approach was making food with just 5 ingredients. And so today we are going to talk about prayer and our perspective of prayer, and that there being 5 ingredients or 5 steps to prayer when we pray from the tradition in which we pray. And it's important for us, I think, if we start out, begin thinking about the ocean. Just getting our concept, just setting the field, setting the stage, setting the premise, the ocean. If we look at the ocean and we think about one of the things that happens with respect to the ocean is that water evaporates. Now the ocean is the substance. Water is the substance. We can say God is that one substance. And as it evaporates and it forms a cloud, and then what happens is that ultimately it expresses itself in several different ways. There's, which we've had a lot of lately, rain. In the wintertime, there's also snow. But it's the same substance, just different forms. Same substance, different forms. Same substance, different forms. It's important to remember one substance, God. God being all there is, but many different expressions or many different forms. So when we say that you are a unique and individualized expression of God, you are. You think about, we have snowflakes up there, and they tell us that no two snowflakes are alike. So that means, ultimately, all of us are from that one substance, but we are individualized. We're unique. We're powerful. We're dynamic. We're strong. We're beautiful. We're talented. We're creative. We're lovely. We're good looking. So we begin with that process when we think about this with prayer. So 5 ingredients, five ingredients. And these are ways in which we approach prayer. And our form of prayer is something that we call spiritual mind treatment. And the reason why we call it spiritual mind treatment, because unlike many other traditions, rather than praying to God to get God to do something for us, we are simply saying that we recognize that God has done it all, and God continues to do it all. God gives life. So we don't have to ask for life, God for life, because we already have it. God has already granted us life. And as you saw in the video just a moment ago, it's really interesting how that worked out, Philip. You saw many different expressions and forms of life. So rather than asking, oh God, please give me life, spiritual mind treatment is we set the stage in our own mind to believe, as the master teacher Jesus reminded us, with God, all things are what? Possible. So spiritual mind treatment is really setting the stage, setting the field for us to believe that it's possible, that it's already done in the mind of God. So we talk about spiritual mind treatment. We're clearing the way false beliefs. We're clearing away that it would never happen to me. We're clearing away. There's a friend of mine that would say to me, that says to me all the time, you know, if I were ever to win the lottery, but then she goes back and says, but I know that God won't let me. Why do you say that God won't let you? Because, you know, I don't deserve it, or God won't hear me, or those kinds of things. For us, first thing we recognize, treatment is about clearing those false beliefs. It's like cleaning a window that's dirty and getting caught up in a condition. You know, there are conditions that we live in, conditions that we have, appearances of things, appearances of sickness and lack and limitation and hatred and disharmony and all of those things. And treatment is clearing those things away so that we can see the truth that's always there. So that's what treatment is. What treatment is not attempting to reach God, because God is already here. God is already all around us, and God is already within us. You know, there's a song that when we talk about, you know, God is real, God is magnificent, God is light, God is love, God already is. So we're not having to reach God. God hasn't separated from us in any shape, form, or fashion. God is within. God is without. God is all around. God before me, God behind me, God above me, God below me, God within me. God. Everywhere you see is God. When we talk about treatment, we're letting God's power flow through us. Letting it flow through us. It is in us. And we let it flow through us without hindrance. See, the thing of it is, so often people get up thinking about the mistakes that we've made. Thinking about the things that have happened to us and getting caught up in all of those things. And I was remembering a story that in the book The Silence of Unknowing by Terrence Grant, where there was a woman who declared that she had heard from God, that she had had an experience with God. She was a nun who eventually became a saint in the Catholic Church and all of that. But early on, she was talking to the bishop who was her sponsor, and she was sharing with him, I've had this divine revelation and experience with God and all of that. And he was a little skeptical, so he said, well, if you have had this, experience with God, then let God tell you what my sin was, my one sin was. And so, she went off and some time again, and she started talking to him again, and he said, well, I understand that you had this experience with God and everything, but, just to be clear, just to make sure, what is it that, is my one sin? What is my one hindrance? And she said, well, God says, I don't remember. Because God is a God of forgiveness. And it's really about forgiving ourselves. We get caught up in, because I've done this, because I've done that, because I've made mistakes. We all have made mistakes. I told you a few weeks ago that some people say failure is not an option. It better be. Because we learn from our failures. We learn from our mistakes. But ultimately, it's about letting the presence and the power of God flow through us without hindrance. Treatment isn't trying to be wizards and control the material universe, and we're going to get out there, we're going to declare with our word and declare with our action, with our power and everything to create things, those kinds of things, as though the universe was something that was separate from us and all of that. We are operating within the context of God. So when we do that, what we're saying is that there is a perfect spiritual idea within all of us. God is in all of us. The perfect pattern, the perfect spiritual idea. Now, when I say to you perfect, I'm not talking about not making mistakes, because we do make mistakes. But when I say perfect, what I'm saying is perfect health, perfect life, perfect wisdom, perfect love, perfect creativity. All of that exists in us, in each and every one of us. And we can allow it to come forth. Just think about how you have been struggling with something and you were trying to find an answer to something and you couldn't find that answer and you thought, well, this just isn't going to work for me and that isn't going to happen for me and all of that. But you allowed yourself to get still and the answer came. You said, I don't even know where that came from. I don't even know how that happened. Or something lines up with you, something that we like to call synchronicity, where, all of a sudden you need, I said to that several people here that walked in this morning, just the person I needed to talk to. There's several people, things happened this week, somebody called me about something or this or that, and I said that, and I was thinking, well, I need to call them, and they walked in the door this morning. Because we live in a perfect universe and things line up for us. One of the things that's really important about treatment, unlike some other traditions, we recognize and realize that if that God is all there is, then God also can work through medicine and work through doctors and work through surgery and work through psychiatry and work through all kinds of things. So we don't limit God and say, so if you are a person and you have to go to the doctor, we don't say don't go to the doctor. We recognize that the doctor is working through, God is working through the doctor as well as working through you. So don't get caught up in that. We never say that. We never disavow that a person is sick, but what we say is that the person has the appearance of sickness, but ultimately that sickness has no power. I know that sounds kind of like, well, it does have some power, because when my shoulder is acting up and arthritis has come, or I get a diagnosis that is not a good one, but the thing of it is that people are evidence of that every day. There are people, I just remember a friend just a few weeks ago that I saw when I was in Baltimore, and the last report that I had gotten of them was a dire report, and people were praying and people were giving up on them, and that was a few months ago. And so I, in one way, was surprised to even see this person walking around doing all the things they were doing, because the things that people were saying was it was over for them. But the thing of it is that there is a greater truth and a greater power that is there. So when we start this way of praying, it's important to be clear on what it is that we want to have happen in our lives. It's important to be clear on what is happening in our lives. And I always pick on Charles when this comes. But if you go to Charles for treatment, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking to you about what's wrong. He's going to ask you, what do you want? And see, a lot of times people get so caught up in, and they want to tell you all of their problems and all of their maladies and all of their situation and everything, and they never get to what it is that they want. And he cut you off and say, that's great, I'm sure that story, somebody will be happy to hear that story from you, but what is it that you want? And so when we begin our way of praying, it's important to have a vision of what it is we wish in our lives, what it is we wish to have happen in our lives. And what we do is we begin to see that, and not only see it, but to feel it as it is real. That when we know what it is that we want. How many of you have ever walked into a restaurant and not have at least some idea of what it is that you want? You may not be completely clear on what's in there in the beginning, but you're going to have some idea. You don't just go in there and say, whatever you got, I'll take. If you do, call me up. But you go in and you have a clear vision, a clear purpose for what it is that you wish to have manifest in your life. Then what happens is we move to that. And the first stage is something that we call recognition. And that ultimately is recognizing that there is only one power, there's only one mind, there's only one life. That's the life the mind, the power of God. That's it. It's expressing as all things. It's expressing everywhere. It is expressing. We sang, this morning, one love, one heart. It's one. That's what we're saying. We're talking about all the things that God is. And in that stage, we begin declaring that. We begin saying, I know that there's only one presence and power in the universe. And that presence and power is God. There's only one life. That life is God's. And that life is my life right now. And we begin affirming that. We move to the second stage and we begin saying that I am one with this power. That I'm connected. When the master teacher Jesus said, I and the Father are one, what he was talking about was this sense of unification. That when you talk to people that we call mystics, who have had that experience where they realize that we are one with the universe. I've told this story before, but I remember years ago I was driving to Tuskegee, Alabama. And as I was driving through the back road to get where it was that I needed to go, there was a voice that said to me, roll down your windows. I turned the radio off, the CD player at the time off. I rolled down my windows and I was driving through the fields there in Alabama, and as I did, I heard something. So I stopped my car and I got out. And what I heard was, people look at me kind of strange when I say this, but I heard the crops and the trees and the grass, everything singing in harmony. Unification, that I'm one with others. And to me, it's no accident that it was down there by Tuskegee, because if you understand George Washington Carver, I met a man who had been, he said, I was one of Dr. Carver's boys, and he taught us that what we were doing was God's work. And it's been said that George Washington Carver said one time, God showed me the secrets of the universe, and God said, I won't show you that, but I will show you the secrets of the peanut. Which in the end was it. But there in that place, because the whole time I was there at Tuskegee, as I walked around on the campus of Tuskegee Institute, and I was moving there, moving through the hallways and on the grounds, and I felt something there. But it was that unification, that I am one with this power. Second stage. Third stage, the realization that it's already done. So the vision that you have, the vision that you created, it's already done. Let's say that we are going to do a treatment for harmonious relationships. Maybe you are working at a place where it's a little difficult to get along with one another, so you are already doing your treatment for harmonious relationships. So you will, in the first stage, you will talk about the fact that God is harmony, God is peace, God is collegiality, God is all these things. And then I am peace, I am harmony, I am collegiality. And then you begin to declare what it is that you wish to see, that you said in your purpose statement. Seeing is already done. I see myself and my colleagues and my co-workers getting along in absolute harmony. I see us enjoying time together. I see us loving the opportunity to be together in the place where we are. I know that each day is a day that is filled with joy and filled with harmony and that is filled with a sense of well-being. And we begin to declare those things, the realization that it's already done. And then, once we do that, we feel a sense of thanksgiving there. And if you remember, again, going back to the master teacher Jesus, when he got ready to do in particular two things. I remember when the story about him feeding the multitudes. And if you remember that story, after he got out there to teach them, and his disciples came to him, and they said, we got all these folks out here now, and they're hungry. And so Jesus says to them, you give them something to eat. They look at him like, they don't have anything to eat. So he says, well, bring me what you do have. And it was just 5 loaves of bread. And remember, these were barley loaves. They were measly loaves. Barley's not, really a good bread kind of. Measly loaves and 2 fish. And remember, they didn't have refrigerators or anything back then. So they didn't have any catfish or whiting or tilapia or anything like that. The fish had to be pickled. That's all they had. But what it says that Jesus did says that he took what he had and he gave thanks for it. Thanksgiving. Already saw that. If you remember the story about him and Lazarus, that when they came to him and said, Lazarus is dead, and Mary and Martha said, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died, and he goes in. Before he does anything else, he already declares thanksgiving. Thank you for already being done. It's important to do that. And then release. So let it go. My declaration, I'm going back again to our example. I know that my relationships on my job are harmonious and collegial and all those things. I'm grateful and thankful for this. And with this, I release this into the creative medium. I know that it is done. I know that it is so. We sing every Sunday. We'll be singing in just a few minutes. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. So we release and we let it go. We know that it's done. We know that it is. So then just in all of this we say, there's one power. I am this power. I am one with this power. It is already done. I feel grateful. I'm thankful. I let it go. And so it is. And I say all that because if you've ever played basketball, there's some times when you take a shot and as soon as you release it, you already know. You already know. You don't even have to stand there and watch and see what happens. I mean, Ed is smiling even on that one because, he said, I do that all the time. But you let it go. And what happens? Oh, man. And what do you hear? You hear, you see, you walking away. You don't even look. You just... That's what we're talking about. Being in a state